For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice of BYU week. Now, we're going to start instant like the way that Clay Helton started his post-practice presser. He addressed the resignation of athletic director Lynn Swann. Clay, in his comments, thanked both Lynn and Pat Hayden for what they did for this university. He also talked about Carol Folt. He said he's excited to be under the leadership of the new president, and he even mentioned that Folt called him personally after Saturday night's win and congratulated him. So some newsier tidbits from Clay Helton there about Swann's departure.
Yeah, it was done with a very, kind of a professional touch. He didn't have to address specifics about Lynn. He was able to, put Lynn and Pat Hayden together. Pat, who was here when Clay came in, and Lynn, who's here, was here till Monday. And it kind of, as we were just talking, it gave him a little bit of a chance to go and talk about President Folt and how much confidence he has in her, how he's just convinced that she's going to find absolutely the best man for USC's program. Thank Lynn and Pat for doing some good things for the students, the student athletes, that they were graduation rates and things like that, and then that moved on quite well without. It was a big, big media crowd. The record 6 TV trucks and I think about 30 media people. Yeah. Wow. So whether that was as a result of Stanford Saturday night or the Lynn Swann, Clay knew he had to answer it and just went right to it. So good move by him, and then basically said, and now the rest of will be football questions about Saturday's game or Brigham Young. And so I thought he handled it very smoothly.
Yeah, it was a short, sweet, simple statement and then moved on. But as far as the media trucks, there was a lot of them there today and a lot around Kedon Slovis. And he said he's been handling the media attention pretty well so far. He said he called his dad after the game on Saturday night and then just put his phone away. He couldn't really address it. He did say he got a text from his former quarterback coach, Kurt Warner, and also from Matt Leinart. And he said anytime that Matt Leinart texts you is pretty special. But Clay Helton is...
I think he said Matt Leinart doesn't text backup quarterbacks usually. So.
Yeah, true. And Clay Helton also said that Slovis has been handling the limelight pretty well so far. He said he's been impressed with his maturity, his execution on game day, and just in the way that every interview that he's had so far, Helton said that Kedon has been mentioning his teammates, other people around him, and not taking all the credit for it. So it seems like so far Kedon has handled the spotlight well.
Yeah, and there were so many people there, you didn't get to ask more than a couple of questions, but I would have loved to have asked him the question that you get the sense that, like all the guys that write National College Football wanted to ask him, which would have been, who the heck are you? What are you doing? I mean, as I mentioned to Clay, without a couple of drops, he would have been 30 of 33. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's 30 of 33 in your first start when you're 18 years old. I mean, come on. So what are you going to do other than say, yeah, he's pretty good. He was pretty good.
Yeah. But Clay Helton was asked, are you prepared that this upcoming trip to BYU could be a trap game? And he said, I've already addressed that. He said from day one in this practice week, he told the team that you can't just have a big win, you have to keep it going. He said he today on Tuesday showed clips to the team of how they practiced last week and said you won in this type of practice setting. That's how you won, the work you did in the week, translated to Saturday. So how do you expect this team the road has been difficult for USC and under Clay Helton. How do you expect this team to respond after a big high of a win?
I mean, I like the way Clay put it to him. He said, look, you got the big Stanford win. He said, but this team, what we're about isn't just getting one really good win. It's having a really good season. And you can't have a really good season unless you, go take care of business at Brigham Young. And you've got to, just keep getting better and better and better. That's what it's all about. The good teams do that. And so what you want to do is say, okay, Stanford was nice and we really accomplished some things there, but we have to play better this week than we did last week against Stanford. And you hear that from Graham Harrell all the time. Yeah. We got a lot of things to get better on. And yeah, we did some good things. And the offensive line did some good things. The wide receivers did a lot of good things. Kedon Slovis did a lot of good things. The running backs did a lot of good things. But the whole thought is, that's not good enough. You have to get better this week, got to get better the next week. And if they can keep doing that with that focus about how do we get better this week, you forget you make it about you. The really good USC teams just loved going on the road. They loved playing before in front of hostile stadiums, and they loved making them become very quiet. And this is what they've got an opportunity to do. So there's a kind of you can't be afraid of going on the road. You've got to really, I loved it the way they wanted. If you just said to those good USC teams, would you rather play a home game or road game, much as they like the Coliseum and their own fans, they'd rather go on the road. They like going on the road and just taking people out of games. And so this is the start, because they get to come back home against Utah, and then they go on the road for Washington and Notre Dame. Yeah. So this is a great trial run. I think the schedule works out really well to get them accustomed to playing on the road. So I really like the fact that this game's on the road.
Yeah, it's a good stepping stone for their next couple of games. We mentioned in Saturday night's post-game analysis that Graham Harrell's scrum was essentially, I told you so, to the media. Well, we kind of had part two of that, but this time with offensive line coach Tim Drevno. After seeing the performance of the offensive line the last two games, he essentially told us, I told you so. He was the one really advocating for that position group prior to the season, and now he kind of has work to show for it.
Yeah, he said, I said, you were really trying to tell us, weren't you, in preseason and the camp and all that. And he said, yeah. He said, I know good players, and we have good players. Those guys are good players. And he said, so I just was telling you what I believed and what I was seeing. And it certainly looks like he's right. I mean, those guys, everybody talks about Brett Nealon as the center and the communicator and the guy that likes to talk and the guy that really likes to mix it up and the good snap guy and all that. And on the left side, you've got Austin Jackson and Elijah Vera Tucker, who just were collapsing that right side of the Stanford line. And then on that right side, you got three guys with Drew Richmond. Everybody calls him, a true professional, the grad transfer from Tennessee. And Andrew Voies and Jalen McKenzie. And you got 3 for 2, and that's a good thing. So, and Justin Dedich, you really got 2 centers. So there's kind of a nice feel about the numbers and how it's working, and the idea that, they're working to get better, that they keep, they've got a lot of pride in what they do. And they're making some things look easy. I mean, with 2 of the touchdowns in the red zone by the running backs, they almost didn't get touched. And one of them was Vi running it up right guard. And how often do you see that? You're running against Stanford, and nobody even touched him. And obviously Stephen Carr on the sweep left, he gets to the corner, turns, and there's nobody there. He just, he didn't even have to put it in, in high gear. He just kind of just went on in. So he said that's the first time that's ever happened to him. So they kind of, the left side of the offensive line, and then Michael Pittman came down with the block, and by the time he turned the corner, there wasn't a corner to turn. The Stanford guys were gone. They were on the ground. So he said that's, I think Austin said, that's the funnest part of execution is when you've blocked everybody and then you get to go watch it on film.
Yeah, I would imagine. The thing that stands out to me, though, when coaches talk about the offensive line and then about the team as a whole, is they're friends. There's good chemistry there. And Clay said even in the mentality of being down 17-3, this team in the offseason, Aaron Osmus, the strength and conditioning coach, put them in situations where they had to overcome, some mental hurdles. So how much does this team's chemistry, the friendship aspect that is kind of behind this all, really fuel maybe a turnaround like we saw on Saturday?
Yeah, this is where I might go with, and I told you so, because I did try to tell people this team does have a different sense about them, a different togetherness, they really like one another. They do things together, and they buoy one another up. They just kind of, and that worked well with Kedon Slovis, and he was on the same wavelength, saying to him, hey, we're going to score. They get down 70-3. We're going to score every time we get the ball. And they did it 6 out of 7 times. So that's just that sense that they kind of trust one another and they believe in one another. And they really look like they like one another. I mean, you were mentioning how when Kedon is leading the band with the sword and all his buddies are out there just laughing and having so much fun. There is this team has a different personality. I don't think there's any question. And they have a different upbeat feeling about the game and their game.
As far as injuries go, it was the same pretty much crew that we saw the past couple of weeks. Elijah Winston, Abdul Malik McLean, Jacob Lichtenstein, and then Liam Jimmins was a new addition that we saw there. He was not dressed out. Someone who was dressed out was Christian Rector, but he was kind of limited in the way that what we saw in the first 20 minutes of practice. We saw a trainer come up to him and basically ask him to do some agility drills, including jumping on both ankles. And the right ankle is the one that he tweaked on Saturday, and he couldn't really go full speed. So we did see him on the bike during some of the individual drills. So we're not sure how full speed Christian Rector is, but how do you see the D-line adjusting if that's the case on Saturday?
Well, I mean, they really got some work. I think they got 40 snaps for Connor Murphy. So that's great. Hunter Eccles got a good chance to play. They were happy with Caleb Tremblay. That's a nice rotation to have those guys all ready to go. And that's the kind of thing you didn't see last year, that they really had people ready to go. And guys they want to give a chance to. I mean, the more Connor Murphy plays, with that big, 6'7" guy with that big, wingspan, and he's coming in on people, and he's a real presence on the edge. And then Hunter Eccles is just explosive. I mean, he just runs through quarterbacks. So they can wear you down a little bit with their numbers on that D line. So and Caleb Tremblay, everybody we've always known, if he's healthy, he's got such a quick burst, that quick first step, and he can get to people. So that quickness is really a good thing, and to have it in the second group is terrific.
When it comes to how opposing defenses plays this USC offense, this air raid, it seemed like Stanford was mostly in man for the whole game. Tyler Vaughn said that they didn't really have an answer for what they were showing them on offense. How do you expect BYU to play this team? I'm sure it's probably going to be zone, but what does that open up for USC if they see that on the field?
And you would think it'll open up the underneath stuff. You would think it'll certainly open up the run game if they drop the linebackers, if they're dropping 7 or 8. It'll certainly, and I know BYU hasn't played the run all that well. I think they're giving up an average of 6 yards a carry. So, I think that was, talking about this season, one of the interesting things about it is how are people going to play this against this offense? What are they going to try to do? I think they look at what Stanford did and say, I'm not sure that's going to work so well, because the people they're throwing the ball to are better athletes than the people who are trying to defend them. And that was you can come up and muscle them and try to whatever, and the next thing you know, you've got an Amon Ra or Tyler or whatever going deep. I mean, they're so I think BYU has to zone and has to just hope USC makes mistakes and all of that, and USC just has to play. Take your time. Do what Graham said he liked so much, was that. Kedon just took what was there. He didn't, and Clay said, you don't have to be Superman. Let your teammates be Superman. Yeah. And he said Kedon didn't do some of the things we saw earlier in August, where he tried to make a throw that he couldn't make or wasn't really there. He didn't do that at all. Yeah. Saturday he just took off with it and made 3 yards or whatever, and then came back and had another play. And so I think that's what he's got to do, is just take what's there, and if they get 5 guys out on every pass pattern, something will be there, I would think. And if not, they're going to be able to run the ball.
Alrighty, Dan, any final thoughts to wrap it up here on a Tuesday? As we both noted, it's definitely a much happier place after a blowout win. It seems like good spirits for all involved.
Yeah, for those of us from Orange County, Disneyland isn't the only happiest place on a day like today. I mean, this was a happy place, and we haven't had that experience all that much in the last I don't know however many months, all of last year and this year. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, the Trojans are happy about their performance, and rightfully so. But that's going to wrap it up for a Tuesday practice. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.